Hey guys, Marsling here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so we are here for the Super Battle Road Guide for the Revenge category coming out on JP. I thought I would do guides for these even though I'm not a JP main. Obviously, you know, Super Battle Road King, you guys like it when I do these guides anyway, so I thought we would do one now. When they come out for Global, I'll probably redo them because the landscape of units that are available will have changed, but this is what it's going to look like for JP. So, starting out, of course, we have the main Revenge category leader is the AGL Super Saiyan Bardock. He gives 4 ki and 130 to HP, 170 to attack and defense. I say Super Saiyan Bardock, obviously he starts off as base. He can transform early. He can transform on turn 1 if there is a Wicked Bloodline category enemy. At this point in time, we don't know what the enemies for all the stages are going to be. So obviously if any of the stages do feature a Wicked Bloodline enemy, then he is going to be able to transform early. Even if you don't transform him, he has attacks effective against all types against Wicked Bloodline enemies. He gets an additional attack per low class warrior ally on the team, which is probably not going to be very relevant, but he's still fairly solid in his base form, raises defense on super attack. And then of course once you transform up to Super Saiyan, his attacks effective against all types when attacking extreme class enemies. He also gets 3 extra ki and then an 18% crit chance and dodge chance and 18% damage reduction for 5 turns once you transform. So obviously in SBR you're not often going to go longer than 5 turns, so if there are Wicked Bloodline enemies it's probably worth just transforming him straight away. He also gets guaranteed crits against when there's Wicked Bloodlines enemies present, and he has a built-in chance to do an additional, so with dupes he can potentially super attack 3 times in 1 turn. So he's a very good unit. He has a very typical like Saiyan unit link set. He does have the First Awakened. He has some very powerful links, so he is the best bet for the team. I mean, currently he is technically the only leader, so if you do not have the Bardock, you're gonna have to get a little bit creative. If you want to run a mostly super types team, or obviously you can take advantage of anyone who's in Future Saga and also on Revenge as well, of course, you can use this Tech Trunks. Tech Trunks is pretty decent. Like in Super Battle Road, unfortunately on turn 1 he's nothing too special in his base form, but once he transforms up to Super Saiyan he hits pretty hard, he's got pretty decent defense, and he's just very solid. If you do get to the point where you can transform him for like the final Spirit Sword attack, that can be a good finishing move for taking out the stages. But yeah, he's kind of just really here as a stand-in leader. I think having the Bardock myself, my team build for this might not include him, but he's a good stand-in leader because you can bring any super type units, and then you can still bring extreme units as long as they are in the Future Saga, and obviously any super type units in Future Saga are going to be getting a bigger buff from him as well. And then on the flip side, of course, there's the Tech Transforming Frieza. Obviously nowadays he's not that great anymore, but he is an extreme types leader, 3 ki and 120, so it enables you to bring like a full extreme team. Technically, I guess bringing a Bardock friend with the Frieza is not going to be ideal because the Bardock isn't going to be getting any stats from this guy's leader skill, whereas obviously you can bring a Bardock friend alongside the Trunks and be perfectly fine. But he's just as a stand-in if you don't have the Revenge category leader. So next up we have the Tech Gohan. Obviously this guy is a beast. Even on ESBR I used him on pretty much every stage he could be used on for the no items run because he's just that good. He can tank really well even in slot 1 before having raised his defense at all, and then after raising his defense even just the once, he's tanking most normal attacks as if they were nothing, because obviously he guards, he has very high defense, constantly raising on super attack. And then of course as a finisher, once you get to the later turns, you can transform into Ultimate Gohan, and then you just kind of use that turn to finish off the enemy once and for all. He does even have a chance to stun in this form, but chances are in Super Battle Road, by the time you get out to this stage, he is going to be, you're going to be pretty much done. So you could use him as a leader as well. There's a lot of Hybrid Saiyans, a lot of Gohans and Trunkses that are on Revenge. I'm not sure what the crossover is like with Saviors, but you could probably make a full Revenge team using this Gohan as the leader as well, although you would be missing some of the key units that we're going to talk about in this video. So next up, of course, we have to talk about LR Super Saiyan legendary Super Saiyan Broly. Absolute beast. In the Resurrected Warriors no items run, I used these two as a rotation together because they link up reasonably well. And then, yeah, this Broly is just absolutely ridiculous. We don't know, again, what the enemies are going to be. If there is a Pure Saiyans or Hybrid Saiyans enemy, then he becomes even more, like, ridiculous. He gets extra attack and defense. And, no, sorry, he gets extra ki. And is effective against all types. Guaranteed to hit when there's a Goku family category enemy. So, yeah, you're making it easier on yourself supering if there's Pure or Hybrid Saiyans, and then if there's a Goku family enemy, his attack's effective against all types, which is ridiculous considering he has an AoE super attack. So if Revenge has one of those fights where there's like 5 enemies but one of them is a Goku family, then his, like, if you get his 12 key super, not the 18, he's gonna double AoE super, which is super effective against all types. So he is absolutely ridiculous. Of course, you don't have to run him alongside the Gohan. You could bring the Tech LR Broly. He is still a very, very powerful unit for Super Battle Road. He gets guaranteed additional super attacks when there's multiple enemies. The only bad thing about him is he does need to attack first to get his defense, and then even after attacking, his defense isn't that great. And then, of course, once you get to turn 4, you can transform into the legendary Super Saiyan Broly. He has an active skill that you can use straight away to get a guaranteed 24 key super and a little bit of an attack buff. So again, like turn 4, easily reachable in Super Battle Road. You can go ahead and pop the active skill and probably either finish off the last enemy, or if there's still multiple enemies, you still get the additional super as well. So he's just going to come in and clean up once you get the transformation. You just have to be careful if there are a ton of enemies still left. His defense isn't the best even after attacking, but obviously the combination of these two together is incredibly powerful. So then we have the Super Baby 2. He's a little bit outdated nowadays, but he is still a very solid unit. He can be useful in Super Battle Road, especially because he lowers attack on both of his super attacks. If there's Pure or Hybrid Saiyan enemies, he does get some extra buffs as well. So again, it's going to depend what the stages are looking like. And then, of course, once your HP is 40% or less, you do have a chance of transforming into the Great Ape, which is always really useful on Super Battle Road because it gives you a couple of turns of free damage. And he does have the double key, well, I say double, it's 1 key extra per key sphere, because a tech type would give you, AGL type would give you 3 and not 4, so it's not double, but extra key, which obviously that was always the big problem with the Great Apes, is it's hard to super attack with them sometimes, especially with a Great Ape who is an LR, so has like an 18 key super, so this makes it a lot easier for you to be able to super attack with him. Even if you can't consistently hit 18 key supers, it's free damage for a couple of turns, so you can't really complain about that. So yeah, he's pretty solid overall. Then we have the INT Cell. Now, INT Cell gets memed on a lot. I see people underrating him, calling him the worst Dokkan Fest LR, all that stuff. But when it comes to Super Battle Road, that's where he can really shine, because his active skill, well, as I say, it's an active skill because you can't choose to use it, but once you get to 30% or less HP, he transforms into the Perfect Cell and gives you a full heal. Which on Super Battle Road, having a free full heal is incredibly useful. Basically, when the mono category Extreme Super Battle Road stages came to Global, I know items the Extreme Int stage on the first attempt by using a team that was double leads this guy. And he obviously transformed in every single fight, gives you free heals, and for most people who don't care about doing it with no items, it's just an extra bonus heal. So it's going to allow you to beat the stage easier overall, because you can use things like a Whis or a Princess Snake to keep your damage reduction up, not necessarily having to heal and then secure the transformation on the next turn and get the free heal with Cell. So he definitely does make this stage a lot easier. Even if you just end up using him as like a third slot floating unit, he's kind of just there for that utility of the free heal. So then we have AGL Mai. Technically Int Mai is perfectly fine as well. The only reason I picked the AGL one to show here over the Int one is because her role on the team will be to be a stunning unit, and the AGL one does have a 70% chance to stun, whereas the Int one is only 50% on super. The Int one does have a secondary chance to stun in her passive as well, but that will only be for 1 turn. So in terms of the overall stun utility, the AGL one is the better one. She does also give allies key and give a small buff to AGL allies as well. So obviously if you're running Bardock or any other AGL units, she's going to give them a little bit of a buff. Peppy Gal's allies part isn't really going to come into play here. Her links aren't the best, but because she provides key support, it doesn't matter too much, and she shouldn't have too much issue super attacking. And of course, she's another unit that is on Future Saga, so she'd get that bigger buff if you're having to run Trunks as the leader instead of Bardock. But she can be very, very useful. Again, depending on how the stages break down, if there's fights where there's only 1 or 2 enemies, then she's going to be super, super useful, because stuns really do control the fights exceptionally well the fewer the enemies there are. Because if there's 5 enemies, sure, she might guaranteed stun one of them every single turn, but then if she's having to take hits from a bunch of other units, her defense isn't that great, so that is something you do have to be careful of. So then we have the Golden Frieza. Again, I showed the tech one here, but realistically you could use the AGL one. The INT one takes time to build up, so he's not as good for Super Battle Road. But of course, the problem with both the tech one and the AGL one is they do have a HP restriction in order to actually have their damage reduction. But as long as their damage reduction is up, they're going to be super good at tanking, not really going to take much damage, even with super attacks. Because remember, the category stages, they did make the last set of category stages harder than the previous ones, but this is still just normal Super Battle Road and not extreme Super Battle Road. So he will be able to tank normal attacks for double digits and most super attacks for very low damage as well. So obviously very strong option. You just got to decide if you do want to run him on the team. You need to bring a decent link partner, because he's, I mean, I guess you don't have to, because he can just be there to soak up damage and potentially never even super attack himself, but always good to run a more cohesive rotation. But he is a very, very solid unit to bring, him or the AGL one. So then we have the new Garlic Jr. So we had to include him because obviously when the new stages come out, the banner will be out, so this guy will technically be available. And if you're going to run a mostly extreme types team, or even if you're just running like double Bardock's lead and then a full extreme team, I guess this could work the same way, because he's really solid anyway. He has really solid attack and defense, especially when you're fighting a super class enemy. He gets that extra buff. He also has a chance to stun, even though it's only for the 1 turn, but that can still be useful within that turn. But the main reason why I included him is because he gives all extreme class allies 3 key and 40% attack and defense unconditionally, which is ridiculously good. And then of course he does recover 10% HP at the end of the turn if he receives an attack. So even if you are using him as a 3rd slot floating unit, if he takes a hit in the final spot, he's going to heal you a little bit back as well. And he's going to be able to do very solid damage and have very decent defense. So he is a top tier pick as a support unit for this team if you are running a largely extreme team. So then we have the STR Cell. So again, another unit who can be very useful. He has the ability to, if you get the 11 key super with him, it's an AoE, which also gives you a heal. He also actively debuffs the enemy's attack just by being on the rotation, as long as there's 2 or more enemies. So once you're down to 1, obviously it doesn't work anymore. And he does raise attack and defense regardless of which super attack you get. So you can super attack early at 10 key, you can AoE and heal at 11 key, or he's obviously got like the big super at 12 key. If you pick up 6 or more key spheres, you will also get a nice little attack and defensive buff, so you're pretty much guaranteed you're getting the 12 key super if you're doing that. But that's a good way to deliver like a finishing blow to an enemy if he doesn't have to take any attacks. But realistically, for Super Battle Road, obviously getting like free heals and stuff is always super useful, and AoEs are really good as well, even if they're not super powerful. So ideally you're probably going to be going for his 11 key super whenever possible. So then we have the Spirit Sword Trunks, obviously a good inclusion, whether you're running the Tech Trunks or not. Another solid Saiyan unit that can just be very good on this team. Changes orbs and then has the nuking style passive. He creates rainbow orbs if there's a Realm of Gods enemy, but again, we have no idea what the enemies are going to be like, so maybe that will factor in. But if you can get 7 or more orbs, he does get attacks effective against all types as well, so he can be very, very good at dishing out the damage. His defense is reasonably good as well, and I don't really recommend him as a slot 1 unit, but he does raise allies attack after super as well. But I mean, realistically, you could put him in slot 1 as long as you're picking up a ton of orbs, so he's got very solid defense. But he's not going to be able to like tank supers and things like that unless you really are getting like a whole field of orbs. And even then, like units without damage reduction that just have high defense don't tank super good unless they, like units like Gohan are able to do it because they also have like guarding and other things like that. But I mean, if you get enough orbs, he'll be good defensively. I just don't think he's great for slot 1. And then finally we have the EZA INT Metal Cooler. I included him just because, again, he's another decent extreme type support unit. He does give all allies attack 30%, so if you are running some extreme and some super, he is still buffing their attack, but he only gives extreme class allies the key and defense buff. And 40% defense is very good, so he is a solid support unit. So looking back at the category, obviously as always with these team building guides, let me know any units you think that I missed or that we didn't really talk about. I didn't talk about the LR Trunks and Mai, because one thing about them, again, it's very specific. If the stages are going to have a lot of future Saga enemies, then they would actually be really good because they have a built-in chance to dodge and they can stun on their super attacks. So they are actually very good in Super Battle Road as long as there are future Saga enemies, because much like the actual Mai units themselves, if they don't get the stun or they're being attacked by multiple enemies, their defense isn't that great and they will take quite a bit of damage. But if the stage has a whole bunch of future Saga enemies, or if it has a future Saga enemy in every single fight, then these guys would bring the ideal unit to bring, because you just keep the future Saga unit alive and keep using these guys to stun everybody else, so they would be super useful. But it wholly depends on there being future Saga enemies. LR Metal Cooler is pretty good, a little bit outdated now, but he can be strong. The AGL Darkness Toa is on here. She can be quite useful. She's an extreme support unit and she does give you that free heal once if you drop below a certain amount of HP. So again, that can always be very good utility for things like Super Battle Road. Scrolling down quickly, I don't think there's anyone else really that we missed who warrants being like an honourable mention. I mean, this Trunks is a decent support unit, but his defense isn't the best. Obviously the Bardocks, until they get their EZAs, not very good defensively. I mean, you could run this guy to use as a rotation partner with the AGL Bardock because he does seal, which can be useful, but you don't really want him taking any hits because his defense is really, really bad. So I think that is pretty much everyone. So let me know what you guys think. Obviously, if you do think I missed anyone, let us know down below. Let us know what your potential team build for this stage will be. And yeah, unfortunately for me, can't play them, but I wish you all good luck. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.